Have you ever wondered if you were making a costly mistake by not filling out your beneficiary form? Well, if you have, then stay tuned for this FERS Federal Fact Check. Hi, I'm Micah Shilanski with Plan Your Federal Retirement, and welcome to another amazing episode of the FERS Federal Fact Checks. We have a great question in from Robin. I know I say great questions a lot. I love your questions. I love the feedback that we get from our audience because our goal is to help another 1 million federal employees with their retirement. And part of the ways we do that is by getting to answer your questions. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe so we can help answer your questions. All right, let's get to Robin's question. She says, I love your podcast. Well, Robin, thank you. We appreciate that. We really love doing it. So love your podcast. I'm a federal employee and fine with the TSP and FEGLI, Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, standard order of precedence beneficiary assignments being spouse, then children in equal shares. And I understand this order of precedence is followed when no beneficiary forms are on file. I have not submitted any beneficiary forms. Are there any advantages, disadvantages of filling out beneficiary designation forms to restate this assignment? What are the advantages, disadvantages of naming a revocable living trust, husband and wife as beneficiary? Robin, fantastic question. Now, there are pros and cons. Here's my default, and you probably heard me say this before, fill out the form. I am a huge fan. If it has a beneficiary designation, fill it out. I want primary beneficiaries listed. I want contingent beneficiaries. Primary, of course, if something happens to you, where does the money go first? But if the primary passes away, so both husband and wife pass away at the same time, the contingent is where does the money go? If you don't have anyone to list as a contingent beneficiary, you spell Micah, M-I, no, I'm just kidding, right? Just a joke. All right. But you should always have primary and contingent beneficiaries listed if there's a form. But Robin, you bring up a great point. It says, Micah, it says, give it to my spouse, give it to my kids. That's what I want. Why would I fill out a form that says the same thing? That's part one of the question. Couple of reasons. I have dozens of horror stories where wrong forms have been put under somebody else's account and it looks like somebody else is the beneficiary. You die, what's going to happen? There's no evidence to say you didn't want that people to have the money. What's going to happen? I've had it on TSP, by the way, right? So I like documentation because keep in mind, I have to argue for who gets the money when you're dead. You're not there as a witness, right? How do we know what you really wanted? So I like clarity. One is a good housekeeping things. It should be on all of your accounts. Not everyone has standard order of operations on how they're going to, not every custodian has the same standard of operations, how they're going to disperse funds. Therefore, fill out all the beneficiary forms. Let's make sure it's correct and up to date. Now, let's go through this and say that I'm wrong. Let's say you spend the time to fill out the beneficiary form, you die, but it doesn't really matter. All the money went to your spouse and kids. Is there anything wrong? No, I was wrong. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that. All the money went where you wanted it to. But let's say you don't fill out the forms. And let's say something goes wrong with that process. And now it's contention and money is not going to your spouse, not going to your kids. Probably was worth filling out the form, right? That's why that's why I'm so passionate about saying just fill out these forms. Let's get them on record and keep them in your own personal possession, right? That's stage 2 of beneficiary form. Step 1 is fill out the form. Step 2, I want the confirmation in your personal record. I have horror stories, dozens of them with the federal government about when this goes wrong because someone didn't keep documentation. They didn't get things updated. So that's why. Sure, it's an edge case, but man, it's a really expensive mistake to make considering it's free to get this in place. So that's my big reason on why to fill out the form. Second part of your question, Robin, was about trust. I love trust. Now, you're talking about revocable living trust. There's tons of trusts, generally 2 categories, revocable and irrevocable. Differences in the names. One of them you cannot make changes to, right? After you've set it up and funded it. That's an irrevocable trust. Ooh, be very cautious before you move into that realm. Sometimes it's appropriate. Most of the time it's not. Revocable trusts are really good. It's a revocable trust. I have a revocable trust. My wife and I have a few young kids. And one of the things we said is, hey, if we pass away prematurely, we don't want our kids to get all their money when they're 18. I just don't think they're going to make great decisions with it. They're great kids and wonderful, but I don't want to tempt them. So we have a trust in place because we want to control things from the grave. We want to guide as a parent after we pass away. We want to be able to guide them as a parent with this trust. That's why it's going to be so powerful. Another reason I like trust is maybe you own property in different states. Well, now every state you own property in, you have to do probate in. It's called ancillary probate. That can get really expensive. If you set up a trust properly and funded it properly, you avoid probate in all of these states. So there's a lot of advantages to a trust. If you have a trust and you've gone to the painstaking effort of getting that in place and working with your attorney, then that should be the cornerstone of your estate plan. And I'm a really big fan of non-retirement accounts. That's not TSP, no, this should be TSP, IRAs, etc. Those are different rules. So this would be FEGLI, the house, the bank accounts, other investment accounts, etc. As the owner of those, all being the trust, or the primary beneficiary all being the trust. I want everything focused to the trust because that's where you have all of your estate planning at. Now, the nice part, Robin, if you do this, if you ever go to make changes in the future, you get grandchildren, you want to change the rules, etc., you have one place to update, and that's your trust document. I don't have to go to 12 different places and update all my beneficiaries. If I want to give more to charity, I got one place to update it. I want to add more to a grandkid, I have one place to update it in a trust. So it simplifies things. Now, remember I said I put retirement accounts, TSP, IRAs in a shelf? Be very careful with these. I see attorneys mess this up a lot. You have to have very special language inside of the trust so it can hold retirement accounts properly and not destroy the beneficiary in taxes, where half of it's going to the government. And that's not an exaggeration. So we got to be really careful in how that's set up. If we got more questions on that, I can jump on and do a much longer podcast in how that needs to be set up and how you need to view it. In retirement accounts, the way mine is set up is my primary beneficiary is my spouse. Why not the trust? Well, with retirement accounts, there's a little bit more of an advantage of a spouse directly inheriting the account versus inheriting it through the trust. It's because spouses are treated preferably. They have a better treatment for retirement accounts. So I want the spouse name in as primary normally. Then the contingent beneficiary, I want the name of the trust. So my wife Kelly is my primary beneficiary. The trust is my contingent beneficiary. Both my wife and I pass away, everything goes to the trust. The trust is designed to hold retirement accounts. So it's not going to kill my kids in taxes. They still have a little bit of flexibility, but everything goes to my trust. A lot of my clients are set up the same way. It adds flexibility and a lot of control from the grave. So again, it's all about you guys and what you want to have set up. But Robin, that was a fantastic question. Biggest takeaway, go fill out those beneficiary forms. I know it seems a little silly, but again, I got dozens of stories, and I'm sure there's hundreds of stories where everything functioned correctly just like it was supposed to. But it's such a big risk, it's worth taking the time to fill out the forms. Until next time, happy planning.